What is up? Welcome back to another edition of the PFF Podcast, Draft Podcast 8.0. Can't believe it's already 8, but only a few weeks from the draft. And we'd like to start off by thanking you guys, the listeners, for making Draft Podcast 7.0 our most listened to podcast of all time.
Was it?
Of all time, really? By 3,000 plus listens. So
wow.
I want to extend a thank you to you guys. Hope you're enjoying.
Millions and millions of fans tuned in last week and set a record.
That's 1,003,000. Last record was 1 million. But,
right.
So we want to thank you guys. Hopefully you're enjoying it, and it's only going to get better from here, we think, or we don't know.
We may have topped out. We may have plateaued.
Yeah, that might be it for us. So
I think it was the O-line. It's the O-line take.
O-line take, yeah, that was getting hot.
Everybody wanted to hear that.
Everyone loves some O-line talk, but we want to thank you guys for that. Thank you so much, and we want to repay you by giving away some Draft Pass.
Are we going to give it away again?
We're going to give away some Draft Pass. If you guys go to iTunes, rate us 5 stars, leave a review, we'll select one of those 5-star reviews. If you leave your Twitter handle, an email, something like that, some way to get a hold of you.
I'd say, what if they send a screenshot? Send a screenshot of your review. Some people do it on other mediums, right? Send a screenshot of your 5-star review to @PFF_Mike.
Yeah, send them to me. And then we'll choose one at random to get a free Draft Pass because we got an updated version. We think it's something that you guys will love. Steve, you want to tell them? We want to tell them what's up with the new? What do we all got?
I'm good at raving about the Draft Pass, but $19.99 value. I think it's extremely valuable because we have NFL GMs subscribing and buying it. We have prominent draft folk buying it. And the updated version, 200 profiles, over 500 pages in the PDF. If you count each player gets 2 pages of analysis, over 500 pages. And you get an online component. And it's got stats on over 1,000 guys, those 200 profiles I told you about, and truly these graphs and grades and stats that you can't find anywhere else. So I think the Draft Pass is pretty awesome and a perfect complement for draft season and figuring out who these players are. I have mine right now, easy access to it. I just go Control F, search the guy's name I'm looking for, get all the information right at my fingertips.
That's Draft Pass. Let's get into some draft talk now. And what's hot in the streets right now with NFL draft is college pro days. The most wonderful time of the draft season where we get guys like Jamal Adams shrinking their 40 times by over 0.2 of a second, which does that seem possible?
How far did he really run?
Yeah, so reportedly 4.33. People had him at mid 4.4s, other stopwatches, because, people still use stopwatches in this day and age to time things that can easily be recorded with other means, which I'll get to later. But
what are you getting at, Mike?
I'll get into it right now in my hot take. I think it's ridiculous that we have 50 different stopwatches at a pro day when you could literally just videotape. You could videotape the 40 and time it off of that.
You are ruining a scout's life, first of all.
It's not difficult. I mean, you start at the first frame when he moves, the last frame when he hits the line, and that is your time. Subtract.
Yeah, the video quality sometimes has to be up to par. Sometimes you lose frames. Sometimes when you're transferring video and stuff, there's
a scout stopwatch is starting exactly when
those guys are pros though. Can't use your thumb. The thumb's too slow to react. You got to use your pointing finger.
Oh yeah,
that's the key.
That's what makes it accurate.
You can only use your own stopwatch. You got to use your time. And you got to say, "Hey, I got a 4.23. Hey, I got a 4.27." All right.
Yeah, I'm done with stopwatches. I think it's ridiculous that we still rely on this, and I think it's ridiculous that teams like LSU pump out these 40 times that we know are just crazy. It's not helping your players to say that Deion Jones runs a 4.38. We know he's not running a 4.3. That's just utterly ridiculous when these schools do this. My favorite was when Beanie Wells ran a 4.38 back in the day because everyone knows. And they had him at a 1.5 second 10 time, which is very good for a cornerback, let alone a 235-pound running back. I just think Pro Day 40s, they get out of hand a little bit, and I'm done with them.
So what are you going to do with Jamal Adams, who we thought was going to run a little bit faster than his 4.56 at the Combine? But 4.33 does seem like a monumental leap. Insane. Most Pro Day guys, they get a little bit quicker. But I think there's other reasons for why they get quicker.
No, I can agree. Like
it's not the team's just cheating.
No, I know. It's the travel aspect of going to the combine. Like, I can't imagine that you're fresh and performing at your peak level, having to travel to Indy, not being able to necessarily.
Yeah, and they're on little sleep.
Just the schedule changes
early in the morning.
Just don't seem conducive to performing at your absolute top of the top. So I can see why pro days do. You would run fast, you would jump higher, that sort of thing at a pro day, but no,
not
2/10 of a second is utterly ridiculous. So I'm done with them. I'm done with stopwatches. There's my hot take. Let's get on to
done with stopwatches. We want to hear from you. Are you guys done with stopwatches? Or actually, Mike, have you tested your theory? Have you videotaped a 40 and then broken it down, calculated the frame?
I've seen people do it. I myself haven't done it.
So you're done with stopwatches, but you really haven't even mastered.
Yeah, I want someone else still to do the work for me, but I still done with stopwatches.
You're back to the lukewarm takes, Mike. I don't know. Stopwatch is here to stay.
I just don't like it. Let's get on to your mock draft because let's get on to something just
you had a lot more picks to hate here.
Yeah, this one, Steve went to 3 rounds. We've been focusing a lot on the early rounds in this podcast. The guys who are going to go in the first round, the big names in this draft. But let's get on to talking a little bit about the guys who will go day 2, maybe the guys who will go day 3, some of the people we like in that range, because I think that's where you make your money as an NFL GM is finding starters in the second and third rounds when, the guys everyone knows have already been picked over, still finding that starter. Steve, I'll let you go first. Give me some of the picks in your mock that you like, that you thought that fit, makes sense, could actually happen when it's all said and done, and would make that team actually better.
Okay, sure. Let's start second round. I'm looking at the Los Angeles Rams, D.D. Westbrook from Oklahoma, who seems to have gotten lost in the mix here. But I just think some of the, he brings speed to the table at wide receiver. Very, very shifty with the ball in his hands. Very shifty route runner. I think he's a good addition for the Rams who just need playmakers. They just need guys that can play. I liked Justin Evans to Minnesota, safety from Texas A&M. Missed a ton of tackles last year. But I think the crazy part about it is usually if you miss a ton of tackles in our system, you're not going to grade well. He actually graded really, really well despite the missed tackles. And it's one of those things, it's a red flag, but he's such a playmaker. If you put him on the back end with Harrison Smith, I think it's just a great combination. One of the best safety duos in the league. Then I really liked George Kittle, the tight end from Iowa to Detroit. I think it's a need and value type of match in the third round. And then Shaquille Griffin, a rising cornerback on our board, UCF, long corner, really athletic to the Chiefs. I got him in the third round as well. I didn't get a corner for the Chiefs earlier on. I think he has a chance to compete for that number 2 spot opposite Marcus Peters, a big need spot for the Chiefs. Those are my best fits as far as like need and value and just fits for the team really matching up that I liked.
Yeah, you mentioned Evans.
Did you like anything about it here?
I like something about it. I want to start off, though, by saying you made one of the worst picks in a mock draft that I've seen.
So negative.
And I said I was going to talk about the later round picks, but number 4 overall, you gave Reuben Foster to the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that has already a full complement of starters at linebacker. And not just a full complement of fairly solid linebackers in Miles Jack, Telvin Smith, and Paul Posluszny.
Are they, though? Paul Posluszny is not going to keep me from drafting a much better, younger player.
That's fair.
We don't know what we have in Miles Jack.
You can only realistically put 2 though on the field for a majority of the snaps.
You can do whatever you want with Miles Jack.
Okay.
He could play anywhere. And Telvin Smith is extremely overrated at this point as a player. Reuben Foster, the Jags are one of the hardest teams to pick for because you always I want to match need and I want to do. That's why you see
because they've invested.
McShay had O.J. Howard. A lot of guys have O.J. Howard there. But you know what the thought process is? It's like, there's no good need, there's no good defensive player. I can't put a corner there because they just got Ramsey and they just invested.
I'd love for them to get a corner.
And boy, I'd love to see, I'm just saying that's the thought process. And then people stick Leonard Fournette or O.J. Howard there, which I think are terrible picks at 4.
Oh God, that would be awful. Yeah, you're right.
So give me one of the best. That
would be worse than Reuben Foster.
Give me Reuben Foster.
Still,
whatever.
I don't love it. But let's get on to some more picks that I hate. But these ones coming in day 2.
All negative.
You have Nathan Peterman, the pick quarterback, to the Browns in the 3rd round.
That's right.
Let's take another weak-armed QB for the Browns and see if we can make him into a starter.
Keep drafting quarterbacks and see what happens. The way the draft fell, They didn't get one of those top quarterbacks. There's no harm in grabbing a Nathan Peterman at the top of the third. And to be honest, the more you watch Nathan Peterman, the more you like him. Handles pressure really well, extremely accurate at the intermediate level.
You got some accuracy numbers for us?
I don't have the exact numbers, but he's atop our accuracy charts. We went back and we charted every top quarterback in this draft class, ball location, actual ball location on all of them, and he was near the top in a lot of key areas. Over-the-shoulder throws, just a couple things that really stood out.
That offense at Pitt, though, was so gimmicky.
I hate the offense.
Like, people will call it pro style because he took snaps from under center, but
it was a terrible offense to watch.
It was like they ran the shovel option
all a million
every play.
shovel passes. But look, we're not charting shovel options. I'm not putting that into this mix here. He did a lot of things that were impressive. It's only a third-round pick. It's like their 6th pick of the draft.
Mm-hmm. It's also only 6 feet tall. People forget that.
It's too short.
All right.
I hate Peterman to the Browns.
Peterman to the Browns. Bad fit. Next one, Larry Ogunjobi to the Seahawks. Do you recall them drafting Jerron Reed last season in the 2nd round? Nose tackle that we were high on. Didn't have a great rookie season, but nose tackle is a tough transition. He could still turn it around.
Yeah.
You're going to give him another nose tackle?
Ogunjobi could play early down 3 technique. Stop the run. Yeah.
I mean, okay, I guess they did use a Tiba Rubin in a sort of big 3 type of early down role there that would try to upgrade for.
Plus, it's Rubin. Rubin's old and he's average. Ogunjobi's a nice young upgrade run stopper up front for Seattle. They just need some depth, and Ogunjobi's got a little bit of pass rush.
Because their run defense was why they fell apart at the end of last year.
It's the 3rd round, Mike.
Okay. I'm just saying these aren't good. I just don't like these picks, all right?
Okay, keep going.
Keep Ryan Anderson to the Pats, outside linebacker.
You hate Ryan Anderson mostly because of his generic name.
It doesn't help.
I mean, short arms.
It's not pushing him up my board by any means, but like you said, short arms I don't think he has the coverage skills to where, if the Pats are going to use him in a heavily dropping role, that he's going to add much to your defense. And then I just think the Pats like length at outside linebacker more than
they do
what Ryan Anderson has. So
they do. They like getting that old power backer with length and all that stuff. I think Anderson plays much bigger than his length, though. He plays with power on the edge, and he rushed the passer at a very productive level at Alabama. Again, 3rd round, I think it's...
I would say, with the 96th overall pick, that's about where I'd start to take him. Like, value-wise, that's fine, but I just don't like the fit.
Don't like it to the Pats? Okay.
Don't like it to the Pats.
Fair.
All right. Next one. This one's selfishly, I just don't want this guy to go there. It's Cooper Kupp to the Jets. Because...
You don't want him to get...
I don't want him... I'd like for him to be productive in the NFL. I'd like for him to get thrown accurate balls at some point in his career.
Well, I had the Jets drafting Mitchell Trubisky.
Oh, okay.
At 6. So when you have Trubisky, it was more the pairing of Trubisky, who has excellent short area accuracy, intermediate accuracy, with Kupp, who's that good. I think he's going to be a very good possession type receiver at the next level, knows how to get open. Don't care about the 40 time because I don't think he was ever going to be a big play threat anyway, but I still think he knows how to get open, and he's a guy that can make plays for Mitchell.
They do, and the Jets, they do need talent at wide receiver. I will say that. So... just don't love the fit. And again, last one, Takk McKinley to the Jacksonville Jaguars at the top of round 2. They just don't need another speed rusher with no real run defense. I mean, they have multiple of those guys who aren't doing well.
Ngakoue, Fowler.
It's just I
think you need more pass rushing depth.
They do need more pass rushing depth.
Line.
I don't think McKinley's the guy.
Quarterback.
I'm down on McKinley. I'm down on McKinley. We talked about
this. Has he been one of your guys falling?
He was one of my fallers. That combine scares me. That 3-cone and shuttle were terrible. And that's very important to...
Really good burst, though.
Really good burst, but the thing is, is another guy, sort of like name is escaping me, Barkevius Mingo, who at 250 pounds with that burst at his height, it's not like he's going to be able to... He just wasn't a guy who was bull rushing offensive tackles even in college. So... that speed, he's going to have to win on the edge. And at that point, if he's not...
You're talking about
McKinley, yeah. If he's going to have to win the edge, and if he doesn't have enough, turn the corner ability, which 3-cone would suggest, and that I didn't really see in college.
Hey, Shane Ray has that similar style
Shane Ray had a good spin move, though, and he had an inside counter. It was a little more.
Success.
I'll just see. I mean, Shane Ray is not...
It's okay. You can not like McKinley. I don't love McKinley.
Okay.
I think he was about the 10th edge rusher off the board, but thought it might be a good fit. Did you like anything?
I will say I'll get. I hate on a lot of your mock drafts, but there were some in the second and third day that I did like. I'll give you some credit here.
Thank you.
First one, Taylor Mouton, the tackle from Western Michigan, to the Chargers. Love that.
Feels right.
Love that.
Right?
Yeah, like offensive line needy team would be great at either guard or tackle.
Yep.
I think he'd probably go to guard there. I'll talk more about him later, but I love the fact that he can play on the move and plays with great balance ratio. Love his balance ratio. We'll get back to that.
Ratio for Taylor.
Zay Jones, next one to Green Bay. You got them getting him at the back end of the second round. I see this one as one that legitimately could happen because of the way, Green Bay sort of profiles their wide receivers. They covet, it seems like every guy is 5'11", between 5'11", 6'1".
Right.
Can run a slant route.
Can run the slant. That was what sold me on Jones.
Can run a slant route. Has, good enough hands and good enough speed, but that's literally all they want is a guy who can run the slant route. And I think Zay Jones can, so could legitimately see that being an option if Jones does fall at the end of round 2. Another pick I liked was Ethan Pocic to the Rams at the top of the third round. I think that would be a steal for the Rams so they could get him there because a guy who could legitimately come in and start right away, be an upgrade on one of the worst offensive lines in football a season ago. Center position there's just been a nightmare. I think they would love to get Pocic. I think he could play guard too in the NFL level.
Yeah, he kicked out to tackle a little bit at LSU, and he's 6'6", 6'7". He held
huge
his own
for center.
Tackle.
Yeah, I'm not sure he holds up at center at that height because it just looks so out of place. But
I think, he could be a very good upgrade anywhere along the interior there for sure.
So that's a great fit to me. This one might be your best work here, and it's Curtis Samuel to the Saints.
Tell that to Saints fans. They were so mad at
They were mad at this. This is like Brandon Cooks feels very similar in terms of style. Cooks was not he wasn't a great after the catch guy in the NFL. He was more of a, he would gain a couple of steps of separation. I feel like Cooks had to play with someone like Drew Brees or Tom Brady, someone who's very accurate because once he got into a contested catch situation, it was a little different, but he would get that 2 or so yards of separation. If you hit him right in stride, he's money. I think Samuel's very similar in that regard.
Yeah.
So I think he
versatile
could step
playmaker,
in.
Put him in that old Reggie Bush role that
I think he could step in and do big things in that offense. That's a perfect fit for me. And then the last one, Desmond King to Buffalo. Sean McDermott coming over there from the Panthers. They're going to run so much more zone than they ever did under Rex Ryan.
Zone fit.
Panthers led the NFL last season. I think like 80% of their snaps were in zone. And they don't really they weren't coveting zone corners in Buffalo. Ronald Darby, not really a zone corner. He's very much purely a man corner at this point. Desmond King probably the guy who's going to get pigeonholed into the zone corner role the most in this class, and that's because he's good at it. He's legitimately
a good zone corner, and
has a great feel for it. And
that's why he doesn't have great hype.
Yeah,
I think, and that's why we talked about last week. I said man coverage was the most overrated trait for cornerbacks, just because I think people forget how well people play zone, read routes, that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's more than one way to field a very good defense, and you don't have to line up and play man coverage every snap. We saw the Panthers do that all the way to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. So, yeah, I think that one would be a very good fit because he's going to, like you said, fall down in the draft, and when he's probably higher on Buffalo's board because of how they're going to scheme their defense. So, I like that fit.
If you guys missed last week, we talked about, not only did we talk about Mike's hot take that finishing for an offensive lineman is overrated, that is worth the explanation anyway. But if you didn't hear, we did go position by position and talked about overrated, underrated traits for each position and kind of our feeling on what we've seen through the years as far as, if you overrate this, you're missing out on that. And that what we talked about with corners was just man versus zone, and not that we don't like guys playing man coverage. You got to understand that, like you said, more than one way to win or succeed.
That Steve's mock, though, I didn't like any other pick, to be honest. That was
everything else was average.
Everything else was
expected, or did you hate every other pick?
No, they were all business as usual. I get it. Doing a mock draft's tough. How long does a 3-round mock actually take you, Steve?
It took so I'm slow at a lot of things in general.
That's true.
But I spent much of my day Monday just figuring out the picks. Just putting them into a spreadsheet.
You stress over these way too much. You're like, oh man, I don't know about this fit, and then I get. He will send us as a group a message being like, I just don't know what to do with XX next team. You guys got to help me out. It's like, Steve,
I like to get some feedback.
Throw in a name and keep it moving because people are going to hate it no matter what.
You're saying all this. You have a mock coming out next week.
Ooh, you going to tease it already, Steve? It's coming out next Thursday. Yeah,
next
I know.
Next week's mock week at PFF, because I usually do all the mock drafts, but I'm letting the minions do their own next week. Mike's going to do one. Josh Liskowitz, Jordan Plocker, a guy named Chris Collinsworth's going to have his own, and Gordon McGinnis.
Who's that guy?
So 5 mock drafts coming out next week.
A lot of picks, and I'm not doing any to overanalyze. We'll get to talk about. We can flip the tables. Mine's going Thursday, so we can flip the tables next week and
crush it next week. I'm going to crush your mock draft. But what I really don't want is I don't want that tweet that tells me it's the worst mock ever, and that's why I stress. I spent all day Monday putting the guys in. Then you got to write them up. It takes many hours of work. I don't want people telling me it's the worst mock ever.
Steve just sits at his desk reading all the mean tweets sent to him and just sobbing. Just, you can't handle it.
Hey, you're the one who read your hate email over the
that was pretty good.
Show last week.
Well, that was a good one.
It was sad.
All right, let's move on to some segments. Steve's mock, it's up on the website right now. Go check it out. Let's get into the scouting term of the week. And this one is gap and zone fit for offensive linemen. We talk about it a lot because it's very meaningful in terms of, and we have the sort of data to back it up to what teams run.
Right.
What does it mean? What traits profile to each when you're looking at offensive linemen, Steve?
So it definitely depends on the position, but you know, in general, gap scheme is more power.
Movement.
People call it man blocking, but I know we get yelled at if you call it man. It's not necessarily man blocking. It's just a different style. Where zone, you're working with a partner, double teaming to kind of get to the second level. Man, you might stay on your block a little bit longer, so it's more movement. Like you said, it's more vertical type of movement in general, just a great generality. So I think you want a guy that's probably a little bit more powerful. You can handle guys that aren't great as far as movement goes. Now, the caveat to that is teams that run more gap will also pull their guards a lot more. So you do need a guard that can not only create movement at the point of attack, but also hit a moving target. But I think there's a difference with athleticism. With a zone team, I think you're looking for a little bit more athleticism, a little bit more ability to block on the move and in space. But that's a little different than, I think, asking a guy to pull. So
pulling block, you just need to deliver a blow. You don't need much more.
You need to be able to find a target.
Yeah.
Whereas zone guy's got to be he's got to be smooth out of his stance and be able to kind of
you have to engage a target,
second level.
Basically.
Right.
There's a difference. So
it's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I think there's a sort of athleticism aspect, and like you mentioned, the sustaining aspect of zone blocking is much more important. Guys have to have good hands. You can't be a swing and a miss type of, a J.R. Sweezy who's a big,
who's a boomer bust.
That doesn't tend to do well in zone blocking.
Then you look at guys, can they, the backside cutoffs in zone. So you need to cut off backside defenders, and often the defender's at a more favorable shade. So he's closer to the point of attack than you. So you need to really fire out of your stance to be able to cut them off. Some guys just can't do that. They're just not athletic enough. They don't take good angles. They play with high pad level. So you really want to find a guy that can make that backside cutoff for a zone scheme. I think that's extremely important. There's a lot of difficult blocks.
Because you see a backside tackle who can't hit a cutoff on outside zone, and it's just that play gets blown up again and again. Because it's such a key block in the play. So that's in not so many words. What we're looking at when we say gap and zone fit. Risers and fallers, guys we've seen recently who are rising and falling. Steve, you want to kick us off?
I will. I'm going to go to the cornerback position. Guy I mentioned earlier who I loved as a third-round fit in my mock for the Chiefs, Shaquille Griffin from UCF. And our guy Sam Monson, cornerback guru over at PFF, I think he posted about 8 videos of him online just showing his ball skills, his...
Guru's a little much, but okay.
Guru's a little much, but he's our guy.
4.38. I mean, he tested out. He tested out the gym.
Athleticism,
ridiculous,
and production matched up extremely well. Now he gets lost every now and again. Looks really bad on some plays, but every corner does. But if you get him in the third round, I think that'd be great, especially in this draft where I had 15 corners in my mock go in the first 2 rounds, which I don't think is that crazy. I had 15 guys go, and Griffin wasn't one of them. I think you could get great value maybe in that late second or into the third round. Production was very good in our system, and athleticism also matched up. Played a lot of off coverage, can run with guys deep. I like Griffin a lot. Speaking of running with guys deep, can Tease Tabor?
Oh, you had to bring it up.
Can he run deep with guys at a 4.7 pro day? So here's the bigger issue, Mike. You talked about pro days from a very tangible, like, I don't believe the numbers standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But what does it tell you when a guy gets worse at a pro day? He shows up the combine, he runs slower than you expected, and then he gets worse at a pro day. Forget the times and the measurements. It tells you a lot about that guy's work ethic, doesn't it?
I don't know about work ethic. It could lead. What I said right afterwards was, how has he not come out and been like, oh yeah, I tore my hamstring the day before? So like you have to make some sort of excuse.
He needs Derek Barnett's agent, who somehow managed to remind us that Barnett was sick at the combine and had a tweaked hamstring at pro day.
Exactly. That's what you need to do when you know you're going to test poorly. Just be like, every excuse in the book, throw it out there, because it just looks a little differently when you're like, oh, Hammy wasn't feeling good, whatever. Right. It just looks a little different. But what he did say, to his credit, though, I did love what he said when asked about a slow 40 time. He said, just press play.
Just press play.
Which, that's pretty badass. That's the attitude you want from a DB in the NFL.
It's true. And look, I'm not dropping Tabor out of the first two rounds. Mm-hmm. I just think in this deep cornerback class, the fact that he ran a 4.6, ran a 4.7, I had to drop him a little bit because he's got so much cornerback competition. And I guess my concern with him is the same thing that I really like about him on tape. When you watch him on tape, he's what looks like very instinctive. He makes a ton of plays on the ball. I want to know how much he's guessing, because he'll also get burned by double moves. Mm-hmm. And he makes a ton of plays on the ball where he's just, boom, so quick to the ball. So there's something there, but I'm a little scared about if he does have to be put in this one-on-one situation, run deep with guys. So look, I'm not crossing him off the board by any means, and I know Josh Norman ran a 4.64, and he's had a very good career. So
most of those guys, though, that go real slow at the combine have better pro days. They don't get slower at pro days, which is...
And that's why I say not only is there a speed issue, but there's also this, like, why didn't you improve? Like, what have you been doing this entire time? So I think that is a bit of a concern, but overall, we like his tape.
No, yeah, I think he has to fall with that. You just can't... You can't run a 40 in 4.77 and expect to run with Julio Jones, run with a wide receiver in the NFL that's going to run a 4.3.
Right.
That's just worrisome. So
that's bad math. And this is the point of the show when you say...
I was going to say, do we do what's 4.77 minus John Ross's time? Are we going to do that?
I was just going to say, I was waiting for you to say, I could run faster than Tabor.
Oh, yeah, wait. Should we go test me and see if I can test athletically better than Tabor? Because
I don't want to embarrass you.
100% I could right now.
I don't think so.
All right. We're going to do that at some point.
You're off my draft board.
We'll do it after the draft. All right. My risers and fallers. Riser 1, mentioned him earlier. Taylor Mouton, tackle. 1, I don't know how they played Willie Beavers over him a season ago. Like, they had him at guard because Willie Beavers was their left tackle. That didn't make any sense.
Poor evaluation.
2, how is he even every small school puts their best player left tackle, it seems.
Every school, every
team. Yeah, like not even every small school.
Every football team in America puts their best pass protector at left tackle.
And he was hands down their best offensive lineman, playing right guard and right tackle. I don't know what that's all about, but dang, I think he could play tackle. We have him listed as a guard in our stuff. I think he could legitimately play tackle. I don't see...
That was our offensive line analyst, Taylor Wright. That was his preferred spot for him. He's a big fan.
He's not tall, so he's like limited height, limited length, but another one of those guys to where I don't think it's going to affect him with what else he's got going on in the tank.
Yeah, so I think he's a guy that you could try out at right tackle too. And I'm of the belief too, and I know you just had a nice hot take on Twitter about our guy Forrest Lamp.
Yeah.
But if it's so difficult to find tackles at the next level, why not at least try all of these guys at tackle and wait for them to fail? It's kind of like in baseball, you let a guy start until he fails and you move him to the bullpen.
Yes, because that has so much more value being a starter.
Right, try everybody at tackle.
It makes no sense to me. The Cowboys should legitimately put Zach Martin at right tackle. I don't know why teams don't do it with how much more valuable the tackle position is from a pass protection standpoint, just and even from a contract value standpoint. Average tackles make as much as all borderline all pro guards. So like it has so much more value to a team. I would try Forrest Lamp there. I would try Mouton there. I would try any guy on that sort of borderline there. Like you said, let him fail. And I think that's why I talked about this before, why the NFL has a tackle problem, why they have such a bad offensive lineman, because there's only so many guys who are that big that can also move.
Right.
And you're putting a handful of them at guard at this point just because of this mythical arm length.
Well, now it's trendy, too, because Zach Martin of Dallas and Brandon Sheriff in Washington,
Kyle Long, all those guys.
A lot of these guys have tackle ability or played tackle in college, and they've had a lot of success at guard. And I think it's a PFF, I think it's our job, Mike, to dig into this a little bit and study. Would it be better to have an average tackle versus an above average guard? We need to figure that out.
Well, and the Bears are actually, and Kyle Long is a great example. They legitimately downgraded in free agency with Bobby Massey from Kyle Long. Kyle Long was, when he kicked out to tackle for that 1 year, about an average tackle. But it was his
which
first,
is so valuable,
which
in
is
the NFL,
very valuable.
Yeah,
and that was his first experience there. One would think he would continue to get better, be at some point an above average tackle, which has a ton of then value. But no, you go out and sign a worse player to fill that position when guard's probably the easier position to, I'd say, fill at this point. Just from what we've seen in our grades, you can kind of make do at that position better than tackle.
Right.
But nope, they did. So I just think Mouton. Put him at tackle.
Just a good fit. Start him at tackle.
Great balance. I loved his balance on tape. His pass sets are gorgeous. Great reaction to the inside counter, that sort of stuff. I'm a big fan of what he can do. And sticking on the offensive line with my faller, I'm going to say Garrett Bowles.
Really? Oh, man, this is right. This is your brand here.
I know.
This is your stick.
The finishing.
The best finishing offensive lineman in the draft
he's so nasty.
Falling on your board. Okay, that's your stick. I got it.
I call him the J.R. Sweezy of tackles, which makes 100% sense to me. He's so just what he does will get him burned badly at times in the NFL. He comes flying out at you, whether it's run game, pass protection. He's lunging off his ass every single play, it seems like, wanting to basically bury the guy in front of him. I don't get, like, even in pass protection, it seems like he wants to, pancake block guys.
To be fair, that's how he handled his press conference at the Combine, too. I mean, he was attacking. I just want to bury people. And everybody's like, oh, this is great.
Offensive line coach's wet dream, but he's just going to have a handful of just bad play. Like, I love his traits, and that was why I was, sort of high on him off of a few initial viewings, because has this ridiculous power, has this movement skills, but I just think in terms of what he does in pass protection, I don't see it right now. To me, he's a little bit better version of Jason Spriggs from a season ago, and we called Spriggs a mid to late second rounder, and that's about then where I'd slot Bowles.
No, that's fair. I think that's I think I sent him to Seattle in my mock draft, second round.
That one was actually one I could have put on a good fit again, because that's just money. But I didn't put it there because it was unrealistic in terms of he's going in the first round at this point.
He's probably going in the first round. Plus, he's old. He's got that man strength already.
So I've gone back and forth in this. This is actually a good conversation with how badly we've seen offensive linemen perform in their first couple of years in the league. You almost want a guy coming out at 20 whatever years, as old as humanly possible, with as much seasoning under his belt as you can get.
But he doesn't have seasoning, though. He's got 1 year of
I know, he has 1 year, but I'm saying, like, you almost want older guys. It's almost
well, then the question is, but are guys struggling because of inexperience or because of age in the NFL?
It is a good, yeah.
So it might just be inexperience, and then it's no matter when you get to year 3 or 4, then you can start getting better.
Could be, but
I don't think the age is a major issue. It's just when you go back and watch him burying guys, you do have to take into account that he's 25 and that
he's a grown man.
19, 20.
Some of them are
not. That's all.
Let's keep it moving to our next segment, and I know it's been a few weeks off from this one, but there's only so many mind-blowing stats that exist in the world today. Nathan Yankee has them all. Our director of analytics. Nathan, what do you have for us this week?
Over the last 3 years, Louisiana Tech wide receiver Carlos Henderson has averaged 0.45 defenders missed tackles on him per catch, so nearly half of his catches he had a defender miss tackles on him, which has been the best in the FBS. And even if he had 15 fewer defenders miss tackles on him over these last 3 years, he would still be the miss tackles king.
There you have it. Thank you, Nate.
Let's move on to old scouting reports. Let's
more O-line talk here.
More O-line, yeah. Last week was O-line theme. Maybe we got to move away from this next week. We'll stop boring you guys with
more skill position.
Yeah, we need some of that. But here we go. On to one that we've so far whiffed on. This was the guard class from 2 seasons ago that we liked Brandon Scherf, we liked Ali Marpet, but we had this guy at the top as well. Laken Tomlinson ended up going from Duke to the Detroit Lions and just I think they traded up for him at the back end of the first round. And he just has not been. Here's what we wrote about him a little bit. We used to do our profiles a little differently the very first year. They weren't the actual profiles that you see on the site now. They're kind of like long form stories, which
it was our first year.
Yeah, like sorry to bore you guys with those.
You will never see a long form story on the new Pro Football Focus going forward, though. Just a little hint into the future.
But Tomlinson makes up for a lot of his change of direction drawbacks by having a rock solid initial punch that deadens any momentum from the defensive lineman. You often hear linemen described as waist benders or lungers. Tomlinson is neither of those. He's patient and balanced through contact. Here was the thing, though. Big question is, how much is his athleticism going to hinder him in the NFL? Not a great fit for a zone scheme, and athletes only get better in the NFL. His pass protection and run blocking could suffer because of it, and it definitely has.
Is it part of his part of the scheme here in Detroit where he hasn't necessarily been great? So that's part.
A little,
because they ran a lot of power at Duke when he was there. It was it was like the read option type of power. There's some indecision in the backfield, so it looks like you're crushing a guy, but he's just trying to find the football.
That was one of the things that in retrospect I should have been a little more wary of. He just wasn't making a variety of blocks at Duke. Right. He's going straight off the ball, straight into an angle block every single time with guys, like you said, who have to read for options and that sort of thing, which just such a limited run scheme to where huge transition then at that point. Just making a variety of blocks that he never had to make before.
That was my big concern with Greg Robinson. So when you watch Greg Robinson at Auburn, he absolutely mauled people. Mm-hmm. But Auburn had so much misdirection going on in the backfield. Robinson, most of his blocks were down blocks where he had a favorable shade. He could fire off the ball. So he's crushing a guy who's really just trying to look over him, trying to find the ball in the backfield. He's not necessarily trying to look for the block or shed the block. So it looks like Robinson's the most powerful tackle to come out in years, and a lot of it, and he has some power, but it was also scheme-based as well. You see a lot more of that in college nowadays, and I think that makes the evaluations even more difficult, guys coming out of those schemes.
Agreed. But the crazy thing is, the other guy in this was in an even less favorable scheme, or less projectable scheme, and that's Shaq Mason, a guy who we were high on, called him a sleeper in that 2015 draft. Had a mid-round grade on him. He ended up going in the 4th, I believe, to the Patriots. Struggled a little bit year one, was in a sort of rotation, and then this past year, one of the best run-blocking guards in the NFL. Really started putting it together. Here's what we had on him. Mason possesses rare athleticism. He fires off like a bowling ball at the line of scrimmage, but is only asked to hold a block for a split second. This was obvious in Mobile, where he got waxed in pass protection. I can tell I wrote this one. But he's there.
You did. You don't pull punches.
Mason is obviously a work in progress, but so few interior linemen can move and find linebackers at the second level like he can. That was Shaq Mason. And I think, to some degree, our grading sort of helped us out in this one in that he was so rare and how good he was, even compared to other triple option teams.
Right, he stood out well above everyone else.
And with that athleticism to where there was just a little something more with him than your normal, run-of-the-mill guard who has athleticism but it doesn't translate. So,
and his rookie season really struggled in pass as a pass blocker, mm-hmm. as expected. Showed well in the run game. Patriots will pull him quite a bit in their power scheme. He's excellent at that. We knew he would be good at that. This year he took run blocking to a whole new level, whether it was in line or on the move. Took pass blocking to a new level, did a much better job in pass protection. Also getting Dante Scarnecchia back may have helped, but definitely a guy that developed. And
Scarnecchia gets more hype than like any O-line coach.
No, you gotta give him credit for everything.
I was gonna say, like, people.
He's got 5 Super Bowls.
It's not. It can't make that big of a difference.
Look at how good the offensive line, how much better it got last year.
They were healthy at least last year. Okay, That's
true. They didn't.
They were like the only team.
No. Marcus Cannon, man. Marcus Cannon. The step that he took.
That's fair. He lost like 50 pounds though.
I know. Like 4 bad years too.
Which, let me talk about that for a second. I don't know how guys even think that they want to play at 300. Zach Banner, 360 pounds. Trenton Brown. Why don't you lose 70 pounds? Like, why don't they? These guys who are enormous.
Just lose 70 pounds, that's it?
Yeah.
That's
like,
easy?
It doesn't. So, it helped Marcus Cannon. I'm saying, no, you don't. You have to move, though. Like, moving at a somewhat high level is
maybe
the one and only.
20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40, but you're saying 70 pounds?
I just don't think any offensive tackle in the NFL these days should be playing at over 330 pounds. I just don't think that helps you.
Maybe. I mean, used to be bigger is better, so guys used to just pack on pounds and use the Marcus Cannon example.
Yeah, literally just, from a pass protection standpoint, I don't think you can play at a high level at that weight. It's just difficult.
Why don't you ask your O-line friends on the Twitter machine?
Yeah, I have so many O-line friends after last week.
Let's see what they think. What else we got here?
Let's move on. Last segment here, handicapping the draft. Steve's going to place a bet. Let's roll through some that you've put on already. You have $100 on Mitchell Trubisky being the first quarterback off the board. $50 on Dalvin Cook being the first running back. $100 that a kicker leaves the board on day 2.
Oh, bad one.
That one's still fun. $100 in my pocket. $50 on O.J. Howard being the first tight end. I mean, I jumped the gun with that one. It looks like that's a lock.
Yes.
$50 that Cam Robinson's the first O-line off the board.
Don't feel great about it.
I think you put 25 on Jamal Adams being the first safety off the board. And now, Steven, how much would you like to put on Jabril Peppers being a top 20 pick? I'll give you even odds either way. What do you want?
I might play this like Final Jeopardy. By my count, I have $375 on the line. I might wager all of it to try to double my money on even odds. I'm going to put $375 up on Peppers.
Yes. Oh.
That he will not be a top 20 pick.
Okay. Yeah. I
$375.
So I truthfully don't know how you can justify drafting him in the top 20 in this draft.
You know, somebody will. Somebody's going to love him.
I was going to say.
Does so many things. Safety.
Talk about yesterday. All it takes is one. If there's one team who's like, I can coach this guy. I can do this. I can make him into something. It's all it takes to get him into the top 20. You don't have to, not every team has to have a first round grade on him.
And all you have to say is, next Deion Buchanan.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the next Deion Buchanan. That's all that matters.
It's the position is so in vogue that
I'm not a hot take type of guy. It's a hot take type of guy. But I did throw out the take back during the season that Deion Buchanan is just an average linebacker.
You did.
He didn't like that. Cardinals fans didn't like it. But it does get overhyped. The idea of a safety playing linebacker is kind of a cool, it's a cool thing. That's great. But in the grand scheme of like, if you're trying to find a linebacker, let's not make a deal about you guys finding an average linebacker. And I think that could be what Peppers would. That's what Peppers would be at best, right? If he became
he's 5'11", 210.
He's not a linebacker.
At no, there's nothing to suggest besides the fact that he kind of played there some in college.
He can be a good, strong safety. Maybe punt return for you. Couple wildcat carries.
I was gonna say, like, I think his only redeemable quality at the very moment as a rookie would be return ability, but it's not maybe some coverage.
Sam wants to make him a running back.
Let's not. We've already talked about Sam too much in this takes. Let's.
Yeah, you talked to him enough on Monday.
Yeah, I'll get my fill next week.
Fair enough.
All right, that's it for us. Make sure to rate and review, and try to get your draft pass. Try to get the one free draft pass that we'll be giving away. We'll be selecting it. We'll give you a shout out on the podcast next week. ProFootballFocus.com/draftpass17. We think you guys will like it. We think it's worth more than $20. Steve's upset that we're
general managers are buying it. We might take it off the market and just sell it to general managers next year, but for this year, $19.99 is a steal.
Go check it out. We'll be back next week. Hope you guys have a good one. Take it easy.